Before we start, let me give a shout out to Hamed, to Carlos Tapia, to Nate 7, and to Sheldon Vassell or Vassell. Just some new subscribers. Anybody think Errol Spence Jr. is maybe a little worse off than they let on? We'll find out in a couple weeks. Hang tight for that. Here was what I said in the video before the fight last week. Check it out. If I thought this fight was on the up and up, I'd take KOVALEV in this one. And I still think he's going to hurt ALVAREZ. He may hurt him, but I initially was thinking stoppage by KOVALEV. Now I'll just think stoppage either way. And that, folks, says a lot. KOVALEV has to box in this fight. The key for him is the jab. Get it off early and crush him with it as the fight goes on. For Canelo, the key for him is the counter punching. I like Canelo's left hook. Okay, in my opinion, his left hook might have its moment in this fight. Kovalev's not going to take a knee from the first body shot Canelo throws. Remember, Andre Ward threw as many, if not more, low blows than he did body shots in their fight. Okay? Oh, excuse me. I meant to say Dre Ward. I'm sorry, Dre. Forgive me. He's Dre, not Andre. Totally forgot. Cove needs to exert a combination of Daniel Jacobs and Gennady Golovkin. Get Canelo going backwards like Golovkin did. Get him on the ropes. Get your shots off and then get out of there before you get hit with a counter punch. And fight him a little bit. You got to get off to a nice start and be ready for the flurry in the middle and late rounds. If he can do that, and his stamina is on check, I like his chances. Okay. When I watched a little bit of video prior to the fight, just a little, I didn't get a chance to do much. I thought the left hook would be a difference maker in this fight, and it was the setup punch that hurt KOVALEV bad and led to the knockout. Now, you guys already know how I feel about the drug game and boxing. You know how I feel about Saul Alvarez and his past and current situation in the drug game. So I won't make this video about the enhancement drugs. I'll just speak in terms of what happened, and let's pretend the fight was on the up and up. Okay, let's just go with what we know. The fight went just as I suspected. You can listen to a couple of videos prior, or the last video at least. Kovalev got off to a fast start. The jab was giving Canelo all kinds of problems, and Sergey was keeping his distance. One thing I noticed was it seems like the fight was being carried a bit. Sergey was holding back a little, it seemed. I think he was winning the fight. That's a controversy within itself, but he was fighting like it was a sparring match. It just seemed like he was either holding back for whatever reason or another, or conserving himself or what. And I'm speaking in terms of prior to, let's say, round 6, and moving forward after round 6. But so the entire fight, in other words. His jab was there, and it was the dominant punch in the fight. But it wasn't the punishing jab that we've seen in almost every Kovalev fight, or Kovalev, however you say it. Different people say it different ways. But every fight we've watched, something just seemed weird. So I had Kovalev up by at least a couple of rounds. If you look at the 8th round, Kovalev won that one big, but he let Alvarez, off the hook. In certain fights, sometimes Canelo inexplicably takes a round off, and in this one, I didn't know if it was because of stamina or if Kovalev hurt him. I need to watch the round again, but I think Canelo might have got hurt with something. He just kind of, out of the blue, just got on his bike and ran for most of the round. And Cove followed him, but he didn't cut the ring off. He just followed him. And when Canelo got to the ropes to give himself up, that's when KRUSHER should have gone for it. Go get him. If he countered you at that point, then so be it. But it's better to get countered off those ropes than when you have your own back against them. So I was disappointed in that round because I thought he found something and he gave chase, but he just didn't capitalize on it. Now, in the round of the stoppage, James McGirt, or Buddy, as people call him, if you will, he yelled, "Don't worry about the right hand." And Kovalev kind of told on him in the post-fight interview. He was asked, why didn't you let that big right hand go? And he said, because his corner told him not to. See, that's the thing. And that's where this guy gets a bad rap. You guys listen to that bullshit that snake John David Jackson tells you about Sergey doing his own thing and not listening to his corner, not only at the fight, during the fight, but in training camp. And that's why he lost the fights he lost. Well, I clearly heard McGirt, as Sergey got off the stool, say it loudly to him. Don't worry about the right hand, Sergey. And what I thought is, here's the one thing, here's how I thought the fight would have turned. What I thought is Kovalev would get tired at the halfway point, which he admitted he did. Then I thought Canelo would get tired, as he may have been in the 8th round, just as Sergey got his second wind. And that's where I thought, okay, let's see what happens at that point. And we pointed that out in the video. Just like in the past videos, we said Julian Williams would get a title defense at home, which is going to happen. And how Jose Carlos Rivera could get a Victor Postal, which is now in discussion. But that's beside the point. So later on, as he's being interviewed after the match was over, Sergey said he got tired in the 6th, as we thought, and he never recovered to get that second wind. And you know what? I believe him. He said his body at almost 37 didn't respond from coming off a grueling fight with Anthony Yard and in such a short turnaround. And the man is nearly 37 years old, so I believe him. You combine that with the fact there was a rehydration clause, which will take the gas out of you. And that scale trick they pulled on him at the weigh-in, and the activity of his jab. I mean, it was even more active than I thought. So I could see him wearing down like he said. But understand this, I'm not mad at Sergey for taking this short notice fight. I'm not mad at Sergey for getting knocked out. He got somewhere in the range of $12 to $15 million. So he had to take the fight. I mean, wouldn't you if you were him? Now, if you, excuse me, if you didn't hear McGirt tell him not to worry about throwing the right hand, which was a big mistake, and lends argument to something I'm going to share in a minute, let me say this. I've been to a few DAZN cards, but when I stay home and watch it, I get the British broadcast, not the American feed, okay? You know, the UK guys, that's who I listen to. So wherever they sat during the fight, maybe their mics picked up the Kovalev corner, whereas the regular DAZN crew that most people watch, the American feed, didn't. I don't know. But what I do know is I'm kind of happy because the commentators on the UK feed, they don't attempt to sway you either way with their commentary. They just call the fight straight. And my card was similar to the UK score guy. At one point, he had it 6 rounds to 3 for KRUSHER. And listen, he was outworking Canelo. While ALVAREZ was throwing hard shots, often wild, he wasn't throwing enough to win rounds. And he came on towards the end and started to get his shots in, but by then he was trailing. No question. So those UK guys, they call the fights spot on, and I hope you hear them in the future. If you don't have DAZN and you have a Fire Stick or an IPTV or whatever, more than likely when you tune in, you're going to get the UK announcers, and I thought they were on the money. Now maybe when one of their guys fight, they may lean here or there, but there's no narrative to steer you into thinking things like American crews on DAZN and Showtime and ESPN Plus do. So I hope you get to hear those guys in the future. This fight was headed to how I said initially, a close fight at the end. And as I stated, part of me is happy it ended in via the KO, because there was some controversy set to occur. You had Dave Moretti and Julie Letterman had it 96-94 Alvarez. No way. And the third judge, our guy, had it 95-95. That's right. Our favorite judge on this channel, Don Trella, coming to your area, causing mass hysteria. Don Trella. Listen, I don't care where the fight was held. Kovalev is the champion, okay? You have to beat the champion. To be up by 2 at the end of 10, I'm not sure. No. I am sure. No way. Kovalev actually moved well for a guy not known to do it like he did. Um, he stayed away from the big shot. He took the body shots well. He fought decent, but decent wasn't what was needed. And he just seemed like he was holding back. And speaking of holding back, let me get to the point I was talking about. Um, and this is not my theory, but it did seem weird that McGirt would tell him going out to round 10 or what have you to not worry about the right hand. And it seemed like a sparring match. The jab was there, but it wasn't. So, which led some people, and I don't think this led them to say it, but maybe you could help me understand. I've never heard as many people talk about a fight being fixed than I've heard about this one. I mean, I'm talking about YouTube people, Facebook people. You got some seasoned analysts out there. I mean, this is crazy. And everybody's buying into this. And while it seemed like Kovalev had a silent agreement working, and I'm not sure why McGirt said not to throw the right hand with a couple of rounds left. I just can't call it a fix. The final shots Nello threw were brutal. Brutal. I mean, we called for the left hook, and he dialed it up. And the thing about it, Kovalev actually raised his gloves to defend it, to defend the left hook. But the hook was thrown behind the gloves, right on the sweet spot, like right on that temple. And it was just, I won't call it a perfect punch, but it got the job done. But his hands were up in the defense. He just went around the glove and caught him. The scorecards bothered me. And listen, I get it. The scores were off, and we were headed for controversy once again. But none of which had anything to do with the outcome. But you have to keep an eye on these things for future reference, of course. And we already have past evidence. The bottom line is, in almost every big fight this kid has been in, there is one card that is grossly, emphasis on the word grossly, off the mark. And then anything where you don't, anything close will go his way. I get that part, but there have been some fights where you hear the scores and you're either like, no way, or you're like, okay, I can understand this judge and this judge, but what about that one? So, got to keep an eye on things like this. The knockout will make you forget, but just remember. As I stated, Alvarez was wild with a lot of his punches and a bit frustrated, which is why he threw them so wildly. But Saul Alvarez's story in this fight was one of patience, maybe even a little perseverance. When he comes forward and puts you on your back foot, when he becomes stalker, he then becomes a technician in there. And that's exactly what he did. So there's interest on both sides to see what's next. Kovalev basically called the light heavyweight division out, and he'll be ready for the challenge, I believe. I like to see him fight Artur Beterbiev. The justification is there's bad blood between them from back in the amateur days, and let me tell you, there isn't any fake drama involved. Their bad blood is real. So that'll be something I'd like to see. Just settle it in the ring. For Alvarez, you assume he'll be back in May. On this channel, we also said if he were to fight Golovkin, we said this a while ago, it'll be done at a weight over 160. If that fight happens, I want the points on that if they do it above middleweight, because we called it a while ago. There's also and I think it's comfortable for both guys, especially Golovkin, who's struggles to make that weight and gets sick sometimes doing it. And then Alvarez, I mean, come on. Guy's 20 pounds heavier, not an ounce of body fat, but so I'm sure not going back to 160 will be to his benefit. Their matchups at 68 or 75 against Dimitri Bivol and Callum Smith. And then straight up at 175, there's Beterbiev. And would it shock the world if he chose Gilberto Ramirez, of all people? Ramirez is undefeated, and he's from Mexico, and you're talking Cinco de Mayo. So, and besides that, he's the least risky of the aforementioned bunch. So, and then there also, if Alvarez chooses a Canelo weight fight between 161 and whatever other weight, you have Billy Joe Saunders in a battle of guys who, well, didn't come up Vada clean at one point or another. And then the remaining list for Canelo consists of Jamal Charlo, one of the so-called champions at middleweight. You also have Sergey Dachenko, if he and Golovkin don't rematch. And there's also the ever-reliable standby, Demetrius Andrade. So stay tuned. We'll see. Ryan Garcia. I mentioned how impressed I was with his statement when he and Romero Duno did the face-off. He basically said no prospects want to do something like this, which is he and Duno fighting each other. Prospects don't do that. Fight another guy who's viewed as equal or better. Instead, prospects will go after a washed-up guy or an old guy or a gatekeeper. And he was saying he wants to fight the best now. And he didn't waste time as he kept the hard-charging Duno off of him with rapid yet hard combinations. And the end came in the first round when Garcia landed a right behind the ear that pretty much short-circuited Duno. As a matter of fact, when the referee asked him his name, he said, "My name is don't know. I don't know." The referee stopped the fight and said, "Go get the doctor in here. He's lost his memory." I asked him his name. He said, "Don't know." Anyway, on Thursday, November 7th, we have the monster, Naoya Inoue, and Nonito Donaire in an IBF World and WBA World Super Title Unification fight in the World Boxing Super Series Final, live from Japan. This fight is Thursday. It starts at 5:15 a.m. Eastern. So if you're up in the morning and you got a little time before you go to work, 5:15 a.m. Eastern, check it out. That's the best I can give you. I don't know about replays or anything like that. The monster Inoue is 18-0 with 16 knockouts. He's probably one of the top 3 punchers in boxing. And he should be no lower than number 6 in anyone's pound for pound list if you know boxing. On the undercard is Inoue's brother, Takuma, who's also undefeated at 13-0, but not quite as good as Big Brother. Well, he's going to take on undefeated Nordine Ubali for the WBC World Bantamweight title. And even though the fight is in Japan, where the Inoues are from, I got to favor the Frenchman, Ubali, in this one, who has a big win over Roche Warren. But you never know, as Ubali is 10 years the senior over Inoue at 33 years old. So, but it's an interesting matchup. In coming weeks to close out the year, including this weekend, we have Jamel Herring versus Lamont Roach Jr. Good fight for Herring's WBO junior lightweight or super featherweight title. That's ESPN Plus this Saturday. Also this Saturday, we got Devin Haney, Ronnie Rios, and Billy Joe Saunders fighting on DAZN. Okay, Haney will be defending his gifted WBC lightweight title. That's DAZN. November 23rd, Deontay Wilder versus Louis Ortiz 2. That's pay-per-view. Also on the same night is Callum Smith defending against John Ryder, super middleweights. That's DAZN. Okay. Deontay Wilder and Saul Alvarez are going to be tough to beat at this point. Tough to beat. December 7th, Andy Ruiz, Anthony Joshua 2. That's DAZN. Same night, we got Jamal Charlo will defend his gifted WBC title versus Dennis Hogan. Also on that bill, we have Chris Eubank Jr. versus Matty Korobov for some interim title. That's Showtime. December 13th, Friday the 13th, Virgil Ortiz Jr. returns on DAZN. The next day, Saturday, December 14th, we got Terrence Crawford versus Egidius Kavaloukas. Kavaloukas challenges for Crawford's, or I should say Kavalouskis. How about that? Challenges for Crawford's WBO World Welterweight title. And also on that bill, we got Richard Comey versus Teofimo Lopez for Comey's IBF lightweight title. That same night, or same day maybe, we have Marius Briedis versus Junior Dorticos, World Boxing Super Series. That'll be DAZN. Just announced, December 21st, Tony Superbad Harrison versus Jamel Charlo for Harrison's WBC World Super Welterweight or Junior Middleweight title. Can't wait for this one. Man, really anticipating that rematch. That one, I can't wait. And to close out the year, December 28th, 1 week later, we got Gervonta Davis versus Yuriorkis Gamboa, and also co-feature Jean Pascal versus Badou Jack. Both fights for the bogus WBC regular title, whatever the heck that means. Don't believe the hype, folks. The winners of those fights should not be considered world champions. These sanctioning bodies, I'm not going to go into that, but that's pretty much the schedule. And so we catch you later. Sorry for the late video. It's already Wednesday. And catch you later.